podcasts. And then there was us. 4 people. And a soundtrack that won't fade. It's time to fade.
Millennium.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you can hear us, welcome. Welcome to the first, actually it's technically the second ever test run for the Oddball Show. My co-hosts who should have their microphones muted now will introduce themselves very shortly. My name is Chad Parento, and I've been selected to be the intro guy for everybody. And one of the first lessons I just realized, if you have your speakers on, turn them slightly down, or at least turn your mics down so we don't hear our own voices booming back to us, or mute your mics until it's ready for you to speak. These are the lessons that we're learning. We are professionals in the making. We are, as they say of child stars, growing up in public. We're going to be posting this onto our Facebook page in the hopes that other people join us. And if you have already joined us, I don't see the YouTube channel. Welcome. I'm going to start with the podcast or the show's namesake person. Jason, why don't you introduce yourself for us right now?
My name is Jason. No, sorry. I don't know why I thought that would be funny. My name is Jason Wright. I am the coattails of oddballmagazine.com. I live, breathe, and love poetry. So I'm the editor of Oddball Magazine. That's what I do.
And what is the website's name, Jason?
Thank you, Chad, for that. It's oddballmagazine.com. That is ODDBALL magazine.com. Business. Yeah.
Updated 5 days a week. 2 poems just came up today. Definitely check out oddballmagazine.com and see what's up there, and check us out tomorrow for our 2-poem columnists. More on that perhaps later on the show or another time altogether. Ivan, you're up next.
Hello, everybody out there in the cyber world. My name is Ivan De Jesus. I am hip-hop professionally known as Scholar, and I am 1/3 of the entity known as JP Lime Productions, the multimedia entity known as JP Lime Productions with a hip-hop center. www.jplimeproductions.com is where you can find our magazine, our music, our thoughts, our feelings, all that good stuff. We're here today with the Oddball group, podcasting the Oddball Show for the very first or second time, depending on your point of view. And I look forward to a very intriguing conversation touching on poetry, hip-hop, sports, and all things that make us happy around these poets. So, again, welcome, Cyber World. Chad, back to you, buddy.
Thank you so much, Ivan. And I did post our YouTube link to everyone. We're using Google Hangouts, which seems to be the new magical home for people to start podcast shows such as these. Over to you, Mr. Professor.
Welcome, everybody, and glad to be online. My name is Prof. I am 1/3 of JP Lime Productions, along with my friend Scholar here and our friend Spaceman. Shout out to you in the heart of Dorchester. We are a Boston-based hip-hop production company, looking to branch our music out in all kinds of different directions, and our most recent enterprise has been JP Lime Magazine, that you can find at jplimeproductions.com. It's a weekly hip-hop-based blog, but I don't know. We have a lot of fun going in all kinds of different areas with it. We do a lot of sports-based stuff. We do a lot of television and movies and culture, and we do our biggest crossover has obviously been with Oddball Magazine, and that's that's been a lot of fun. So let's get right to it, and take it away, Chad.
Thank you so much, Prof. And just as a reminder to people, and a reminder to the Prof as well, and to Ivan, we do a lot of cross-marketing between Oddball and JP Lime Productions. JP Lime is very generous. Well, not only are they generous enough that they basically named the podcast after Jason Wright's magazine, they also print poetry and other tidbits from Oddball Magazine at least once a week over on their website, and once a week over at oddballmagazine.com. We do the JP Twist of Lime column, which is basically random samplings from the website itself, which I encourage you to visit. I have a couple of bookmark articles myself based on our one of our upcoming shows, which I'm excited to delve into later on this week. We have a lot of dream shows coming up, and even though it seems like we're plodding through this, that's PLODDING. We have been planning a lot. We've been discussing a lot. We've been actually doing meetings for this past month, just figuring out what we're going to do. This is just a test run, but I'll tell you, our first show is going to be quite a spectacular thing if all goes well. We've been making sure that we keep we keep this show as diverse as possible and offer as many voices as possible. Now, for those of you who may be listening, can you be part of this show? Well, yeah, and technically, though we may not do it our first night, we were having a hard enough time getting all four of us in Google Hangouts and getting ourselves live. You too, if you have a Google account and you have a YouTube account, you can be part of what's no doubt an online chat going on right now on the very YouTube page, which I would visit myself, except I don't want the feedback to affect this show right now. But you can basically comment. We might even set up a Twitter page where you can leave questions. I know a lot of people do that as well, but you can enter the chat, and you can even request to be put into the show. And our main Hangout Wrangler, Ivan, with the man with the JP Lime logo, would be the one to bring you in. So there's a lot of potential to bring in spontaneous guests, to bring in planned guests, because we want to diversify this as much as possible. We represent a good chunk of the Boston poetry scene and the Boston hip-hop scene, but, some of you might be looking at us and be like, my God, you're four white guys. Or, given the other logos, you might be like, wow, you're two white guys and two logos. Well, that's not very diverse at all. But
just for the record, Ivan is Puerto Rican.
Yeah. I'm Puerto Rican.
They don't. Well, I was gonna take that out of my deck. I was gonna take that out of my deck, but they don't know that listening to us. And they don't know about the many people we've been talking to bring people.
Ivan sounds white. Is that what you're trying to?
Well, yeah. Me jodan la vida, okay?
Chad closes his eyes and hears Ivan talk. He sees a white guy.
Well, with his crappy mic, yes, he does. He sounds like me.
I'm not judging. I'm just saying we're breaking through on something here. We're discovering something new about your relationship.
Thanks for that.
Well, I am light-skinned. Yeah.
I have seen you up close. I'm basing this on audience expectations and not what I already know. The point is that we're bringing in a lot of people, and we invite a lot of people to come in, offer their thoughts, offer after-show thoughts, after-during-show thoughts. The more we evolve, the more you can evolve, the more you can participate, and the more we grow.
Can I stop for a second? I just gotta say, Chad is a dope speaker. All right, keep it going, Chad.
Well, for the record, Chris is a pretty good tweeter.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I was a pretty good tweaker.
Subwoofer, maybe? Yeah.
Subwoofer. He's a speaker.
Or you could have gone Instagrammer since Chris was a tweeter. Get it? Yeah? Anybody?
I am super good at AOL.com. I got dial-up, bitches.
Hey,
I'm old school Earthlink. Suck it. Anyway.
I found this on Webcrawler, yo.
Here's how old I am. Does anyone remember the CIA.net?
Whoa, really?
What?
There was actually total random shot here. There was actually, in the old days of the internet, back in 99, 2000, a local internet service called Complete Internet Access.
What did they offer?
It was something that was offered through PCs for Everyone, which is a store in Cambridge where I got my first and second computer, and first and second computers ever. And for $14.99 a month, you were able to basically get like just be able to access the internet, and you got your own email, which mine was chat@CIA.net.
You had that CIA.net.com?
The CIA.net.
Right.
Of course,
I
if you
love
didn't
the
have,
fact that you remember the price for $14.99.
it was something. It was it was something that was absurdly low at the time, but just got ridiculous to pay. Ridiculous to pay over time, especially when I grew dead broke. I did pay for it for a while, even after I lost my computer and lost my apartment, just so I could have an email base. And plus, you have to admit, chat at the CIA.net is pretty cool. For those of you listening out there, Jason Wright is doing his best impression of a morning zoo show. I think Jason is the wacky guy of the radio show. I think the prof is the equivalent of like the guy that laughs all the time on the morning radio show.
Somebody gets to do that?
Oh yeah, and
That sounds pretty good.
Mark Maron actually, the comedian Mark Maron actually put it one time, like the morning zoo. There's always one guy who's like has way too much energy, like and then one person.
There, champ.
That one person who always laughs at what the crazy guy says, and there's a woman in the background going, fellas.
Does that mean Ivan has to be the woman in the background?
I think I'm going to regulate myself to be the woman in the background in a minute if Jason keeps up with that. Thank you very much for the mute function, Mr. JP Logo, a.k.a. Ivan, a.k.a. Pedro.
You know what?
Yes. What?
I don't. Oh no, he's back. There we go. Good.
No, I'm good. I learned how to unmute myself. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought I might have put you off again permanently.
Wait, we lost Chad. Chad? Did we lose Chad?
Oh, what a silly Chad. He says he left the group chat.
Did Chad leave? Did he do that on purpose? I don't know. There he is.
Definitely
And
accidental.
he's back.
And for some reason, I keep on making the mute button, I keep on mixing up the mute button and the hang up button, the leave call button. They're both red because I keep on. Good God. Oh, good God. Dear Lord.
All right, so what do we got for the internet world out there tonight, Chad? We got some poetry?
We got some poetry. We're going to cover the poetry end of things. The first one's going to be coming up as kind of a wish list out there. I want to send out some love to former poet populist Tony B. of Cambridge. Now, what is a poet populist, those of you who might be listening in another state besides Massachusetts, or in another town besides Cambridge, Massachusetts? Well, the Cambridge Poet Populist is a position that's basically the equivalent of a poet laureate. Instead of a laureate, it's called Poet Populist in Cambridge, and it really lived up to its name in recent years, having people who you would not consider being part of the poetry scene winning, such as Tony B., who led one of the most, I have documented proof of this from certain people, he actually achieved more votes than any other previous poet populist in the community, garnering a whopping 412 votes, which is kind of amazing given how much poets just tend to work in their own circles in order to get votes or nominations for everything. The poet populist is a really unique position, and the reason I'm kind of waxing poetic about this is because another thing going on in the month of May is the Massachusetts Poetry Festival is in May. There's National Poetry Month in April, but the Massachusetts Poetry Festival is taking place again. I think this is this 4th or 5th year, and it's taking place in Salem, Massachusetts. Jason will be there. You can talk about the panel in a second. But one of the panels I was trying to introduce was an actual panel discussion with all the poet populists that have ever been. And there's been, let me see, there's 4 in all. And the first person ever to be elected the poet populist was Peter Payak, who is a noted Cambridge poet and teacher in the area. And he was kind of like a surprise poet. There were a lot of local, I'll just say poet celebrities, people who are involved in like the small press publishing group that nominated themselves, went out there, campaigned, but not only were the votes so widespread and divided amongst all the friends, they couldn't really get a base, but Peter Payak and it came out on top, and it almost surprised. I think it surprised just about everybody. The next poet populist was the first one was elected in 2007. The second one to ever be elected was, and I apologize in advance for my poor pronunciation of his name, but he is. I will say this: he's featured at Stone Soup before, and he's actually come in on recent open mics. Jean-Denis Joachim, and he's a fantastic poet and performer and an author. And I actually grabbed I'm grabbing one of his books the next time I see him. He was actually the second highest amount of community votes, and his reign lasted from 2009 to 2011. And I really started to take note. I don't live in Cambridge myself. I actually kind of have an almost roaming address these days, but I'm always in Boston. And I was very surprised to see how much energy picked up when Tony B assumed the mantle. And Tony B is someone who impressed me immensely because she really kind of showed the potential of what someone who was known maybe perhaps at the time less as a poet, I think you'll agree, Jason, more as an amazing community activist, not only filled the role quite well, but it kind of excelled in previous expectations.
Hey, Chad?
Yeah?
I just want to chime in here. That's interesting to me because I know Tony B, and I've met her. She's wonderful. She's an awesome woman. I've seen some of her work. I only know her as a poet. When did she become poet laureate again?
Poet populist, and that was back in 2000. That was back in 2011.
Okay, all right. So that's in and around the time that I'm okay. So you're saying before that she was an activist?
She was a community activist. She was very involved, and even if you walk down the street with her, like as Jason and I have done in the past, she'll greet half a dozen people just on the way from say the Out of the Blue Gallery to the Phoenix Landing or the Middle East.
Okay, all right. No, that's interesting. Yeah, no. So shout outs to Tony B. We love Tony B. She's awesome.
She's an excellent person, and now of course I have to give props to the current poet populist, Lo Galuccio, who's been doing a great job and just recently did a show last week, which I'm sorry I couldn't attend. I wasn't feeling well. It was her annual tribute to Patti Smith, which she was actually able to bring and help advertise to a larger audience. So I was very excited about that for her. We have, however, in recent weeks, I do not know how many people are privy to the knowledge, but it appears that the Cambridge Cultural Council is going to be dissolving the position of poet populist.
Really?
And it's very sad that this is actually happening, and it's very sad that it's being announced, almost right in the middle of Lo Galuccio's tenure, which is baffling to me.
Why now? What's going on? Why are they dissolving the position? Is it politics? Is it budget? Is it a combination of everything?
Well,
I think it's politics.
It's probably a little bit of both. Although some people would laugh at that prospect because it's very hard to find even before now. It was very hard to find record of previous poet populists on the Cambridge Cultural Council's website. People had made that observation before, and it seemed like, man, there should be a hell of a lot more support. I mean, I can understand the first poet laureate, Sam Cornish, not having a lot of information on his website because he was the first, and he held the position for so long. It just recently was relinquished late last year, I believe.
Honestly, though, Chad, not to interrupt, but I think Tony B, as poet populist, was one of the more effective poet populists. She did a lot for the community. She did tons of events. She was doing stuff at the Middle East. She was doing stuff at Stone Soup. She was doing stuff at the library. Hats off to Tony B. I really think she did an outstanding job. She was at the Oberon. They did a whole benefit, well, not a benefit, but kind of like a celebration for her. And I think that's great. I mean, I think what Lo has done is great too, but I don't think she's done the same impact that Tony had on the poet populace. What do you think?
Are you hating?
Am I muted?
Are you hating? I think you're hating.
I'm not hating.
Is he hating, Chad?
I don't think he's hating, and I don't want to rain. I don't want to.
JP Live thinks I'm hating. I'm not hating.
I don't want to diss anyone's position, and let's not count Lo Galuccio out of it yet. She hasn't
I
even.
think Lo's fantastic. I've met her a bunch of times. I'm just saying Tony did a lot of stuff.
All I'm saying is that Lo Galuccio hasn't finished her tenure yet, but I will say that Tony ended on quite a strong note and definitely knew how to. It was definitely. I will say this: that Tony was unique out of most of the other community members in that she really knew how to work the system of a community and how it works.
Yeah. And the thing is, what she ended up doing, what she's been doing recently is she's taking on that activist role. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I will tell people, and perhaps one of you can find a link for me. If you go to the Somerville Scout website, there's actually it's a Cambridge Somerville Scout. It's a journal that covers both Cambridge and Somerville, Massachusetts, in 2 different editions. There's an amazing interview with Tony B. Concerning her involvement with Black Lives Matter. She has really come out in the forefront of this and has impressed me on a great scale.
I'm just going to be the first to say I love Tony B. She's one of my favorite people on the planet. So everything that she does, she recently. Should we tell about the best inning in New England, or is that still?
I can. All right. Well, full disclaimer. Full disclaimer, people. Tony B actually works with Jason and myself, not just on Stone Soup, but she also has contributed a little, especially on a earlier version of a podcast for Oddball Magazine. So, and she's also contributed several poems to us. And Jason Wright and I were part of a large editorial board encompassing all independent literary magazines around New England.
Thank you, Thomas Dobson. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas Dodson, and thank you, Victor Infante. And congratulations. There's a lot of other people who we need to congratulate. I don't want to list.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't want to attempt to list them all, but the 2 people I would note are the late Joe Gouveia. He was one of the ones that we nominated posthumously for the. To earn a spot in the Best Indie Lit New England Volume 2, but Tony B was also one of our first choices, and she ended up getting in, which we're really excited.
She wrote called Rush, which was about
the late Dr. Maya Angelou.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And Joe passed away, but he ended up writing one of the best books. If you can get it, it's called Sedades. He was a fantastic poet. He's a great guy. He passed away. We're really sad. He passed away on Mother's Day last year. But he definitely deserves his spot in poetry, and definitely in Boston.
We'll try to do some post-production notes at the end of this podcast. We'll probably post this up on the YouTube, the JP Limes Production YouTube, to give people a chance and a little taste of what's coming. And maybe we can do some post-show notes. We can post the Scout article on Tony B. We can post the link to Sedades, which I believe is still available on Amazon, and so on and so forth.
My birthday's coming up. Someone buy it for me. Ivan.
Oh my! But I will say this: the whole reason I brought this up is because I think I'm trying to like hell to access the information again, as given to me by one of the Cultural Council members, Julie Berry. But the crux of the matter was, I think they were discussing. And again, I apologize in advance if I'm not getting the exact reason. I think they were talking about like low numbers of involvement. But again, they didn't bring that up with Tony in terms of voter turnout and participation.
Oh, interesting. Wait, voter turnout? So you vote for it, so that's where the numbers were low. Nobody was going to vote for the.
That was not true for Tony B and one other candidate, and I don't know how much information I'm privy to that, but I think anyone who knew Tony B would agree that she had her way of driving up people to get involved in this, and she had her own. She had her
motivator. She motivates people. She speaks to kids. She's fantastic. Fantastic.
We've hung out with her, Chris. We have a picture of Tony B wearing a JP Lime Productions hoodie.
What? Can I get one? I want one.
Yeah.
One of the shows?
No, not one of the shows. At one of the Johnson's cookouts. So our bandmate Spaceman, in absentia tonight. His family was having a cookout one day. I forget whose birthday it was, and she was there because she's Tony B. She knows a lot of really cool people, and obviously we know a lot of really cool people. So boom. And yeah, no, she was hanging out. It was a little cold out. Spaceman came by, gave her the sweatshirt. We took a picture. It was cool. It was cool. We were having a little freestyle session. She's an awesome woman. I mean, I've known her as mainly a poet. I'm not surprised that she's done all these other things. I mean, do you really think it's that her leaving has impacted the position and the whole scene that much, or
I think she left big shoes to fill, man. She was doing
that's what it sounds like you're saying, and that's objectively that's kind of what it sounds like to me. Granted, I'm not 100% in the scene like you guys are, so I'm curious to I'm curious about that. I mean, is she really that much of a beast? Like, is she really that good? That her taking a break is like boom, the whole ship goes down. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe the whole ship doesn't go down, but you lose a little steam. You're not going as fast. You know what I mean?
All I know is I met Tony at a Cambridge River Festival about 3 or 4 years ago. While she was Poet Populist, and she saw me read, and then she started talking to me, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to all these events, and she's organizing constant events. That's what a poet laureate has to do. I mean, not laureate, populist has to do is get involved with the community and set up as many events as possible for the community. Cambridge has a great community of artists and poets. You know what I'm saying? What she did was she was able to harness that and get poets from all sorts of corners to kind of unite under this one thing, which was what Tony B was about. Is about now. I mean, she's about. I can't speak to what she's about, but what I think she's about, I think she's about unity and unifying the community, and that's why she was such a damn good populist. You know what I'm saying? So,
I get it.
I mean, I wouldn't say this if I didn't think that it was true, because if you know me, I speak my words. But she definitely left an impact, and then her tenure was up, and then Lowe took over. And Lowe's doing a good job, but I mean, she's not, Tony really killed it as Poet Populist.
In the interest of being fair to everyone, and I don't want to make it seem like we're dumping on Localucio.
Right.
I want to say in all fairness, Tony definitely did also have the right combination, and it could have been a fortuitous series of things where she was able to implement her time like this. And I have to say, for volunteer positions like this, where you're getting very little, if any, money. Hell, even the Boston poet laureate position, I think you only get like $2,000 to $5,000 for the entire tenure. And some of that money is what you're going to be using like whatever dream project you come up with.
So is that what they're really about? For getting rid of the position, is it really about getting rid of that small of a stipend?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's true of any art position, whether it's a city as big as Boston or a town as big as Cambridge. But getting back to the point, these positions are very difficult to maintain. It's basically you almost have to have this be your full-time job. This is true with a lot of volunteer positions, whether it's being on an arts council for your town, or even just volunteering for. I'll give you an example. A publication like Spare Change for Mark Goldfinger. Mark Goldfinger has been the editor-in-chief of the poetry section for a long time, but it seemed like he was going to give it up for a while, and they actually were looking for people who might be interested in taking it over. And this is almost 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, I think. And at the time, I said, "Oh, I might be interested in doing that." This is before I even thought about taking over Stone Soup Poetry. And I ended up calling the editor, and they're like, "Oh, well, let's have you come down. I think you might be a good fit." I'm like, "This is great. I'm not doing anything besides like my job right now, so after work I would love to come in and work on this as much as I need to." And they're like, "Oh, well, because of where we're located and everything, we can only be open certain hours." I'm like, "Well, when do I have to be there between?" "Oh, I believe like somewhere between like 8 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon."
That's what is it? What is that? That's when you got to be there.
Well, that's the only time that they're open. I can't work. I can't just go there and like work nights on there. So it was just very ironic for.
Have you seen the new spare change, Chad?
I have not seen the most recent spare change.
I'll tell you what. I bought it the other day. It's Amanda Palmer's on the cover. There's lots of poetry on the back. There's a great article about Amanda Palmer.
I'm sure they do a great job. It just struck me at the time, and they may have changed everything radically so in the last few years. But it was just very ironic to me saying that in order to take a position to do a poetry section for a homeless newspaper, a newspaper sold by the homeless, I had to have like the hours of a homeless person. Like I had to basically be unemployed in order to volunteer for this thing.
I should volunteer for this thing. I'm in about that boat. No, I'd love to volunteer for Spare Change. You kidding me? I love their mission. I mean, their mission's great. For people who don't know what Spare Change is they create a newspaper, and I think this is all over the. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm probably wrong. But what they do is they have this newspaper that people sell, and they get $1 or $2 or $5 for it, and it kind of helps people with low incomes or even homeless people get some kind of some money towards doing good, because they're getting the newspaper, they're selling it to people, they're kind of interacting with the people. I remember about last year there was a guy that was a really nice guy that was selling the spare changes, and then one day he just didn't start showing up, and it turned out that he had died, and there was a little memorial for him. So I'm saying what he did mattered, because he worked with the community, and he also was he was a spare change vendor. But not only that, I mean, he was a nice person. He would talk to you. So what I'm getting at about Spare Change is that it's a great organization that kind of helps people. I mean, their slogan is what is it? Changing people to change themselves, or something like that. I was fortunate to read at one of their picnics once, and it was awesome. And I totally support Mark D. Goldfinger as doing what he does at Spare Change, and everything that Spare Change stands for. I'm totally with. So yeah, I think I lost my track of thought. I'm just saying, Spare Change, booyah.
Oh, we got you.
It does seem pretty cool. From what I just read, it is only Boston, it started in Cambridge, but it doesn't seem like it's national.
Well, it's not
national. Boston. No, not yet.
Oh, I thought it was like
20 years.
California. No.
I believe they have an equivalent in California, or at least the San Francisco area, but it's not affiliated with Spare Change.
Yeah, it says there's one in Portland, Oregon. There's one. Let's see, what does it say? Similar in concept to the Rose City Resource, which is in Portland, Oregon. But the Spare Change is definitely started in Boston. Or what is it? Yeah.
What I like about Spare Change is how it's related to the poetry world, is because Mark D. Goldfinger is kind of a beast of a poet, and he's their poetry editor, and he puts up poets from all over the Boston area,
including some homeless individuals as well. They get their chance to shine.
It seems pretty awesome, dude.
It's a great resource for people who might not have the funding to get a job or whatever.
Because I kind of led this off, I kind of basically drew us off into this tangent. So just to bring it back, my whole point is that these organizations that require these beasts to run it, you have to either be blessed with an incredible schedule, an incredible luck, or both, or you have to have the spare time available to do it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Tony had just that combination of all three. And I can just tell you, any poet who is not of retirement age and has to go to a job, has the responsibilities, has a family, has a relationship, these things knock down your effectiveness by so much. It's so many factors. So I can imagine that this is a position that a lot of people, when they try to run for it, don't know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
I speak as an organizer. I have to put in a certain amount of time each week for Stone Soup Poetry, in Cambridge to run effectively, and it boggles me of like how much time I take, And to do a populist or to do a laureate-ish position, just kind of like boggles my mind. I would never be able to do it right now at this stage of my life. So it's a shout out to everyone to do this.
Yeah.
And which leads me to what I was trying to get to. What I was getting to in the beginning of this segment is that I would love for a dream project as part of this Oddball Show to have a dream cast, a dream panel. The Massachusetts Poetry Festival, I've tried submitting this to them 2 years in a row, no go, no luck.
I don't know why.
Well, let me finish, Jason. To have all four poet populists in the same room as part of a panel, just talking about what they did and why they went for the position, and how they view the position now, and just like even go over their contributions. Only now, by the next time I have a chance to submit this, there might not even be a poet populist position. So I think
it's very, very unfortunate. Yeah.
I think it's very important to get all these people in there: Peter Payak, Jean-Daniel Joachim, Lo Galuccio, and of course Tony B. All on the panel just to talk about this. And if I could teach everyone Google Hangouts to do it, I would love for that to happen. I don't just want to interview each poet at a time, although that would be fine too in a less than perfect world. But in a perfect world, I want them all together for this program.
I am really surprised that they pass on that panel. That sounds like a wicked awesome panel.
I would enjoy it, and I always tried to do it from the angle of being like, do you want to do this for your own town? How does the Cambridge Poet Populace differ from differ from, like, say, the Poet Laureate position of Boston? The Poet Laureate position was picked with a committee. The Boston Poet Laureate is picked by committee. You can apply and you can choose. At least with the Cambridge Poet Populist, and you can talk about voter turnout as much as you want, but that's still a factor in how these people have to run. They can't just rely on their poet friends, just call a few people from Alston, call a few people from Brookline to write in. You have to really be in the excuse me, sorry if that sounded bad on the mic. You have to really be involved in where you live.
Jack, can I ask you a question?
You just did, but ask another one.
Ezra Pound. All right, no. My question is, how many laureates and populists are there in the surrounding area? Because there should be more. Don't you think?
I know that they just enacted the poet laureate position in Somerville, the poet laureate position, and of course in Boston just recently got its new candidate, and which I'm actually looking up right now in desperation because I forgot her name. Apologies.
From Somerville?
That's the poet laureate. Thank you. That's the poet laureate of Somerville.
Yeah, I read up a little about her. She's a very, very good candidate. I mean, she's a very good pick. Good poet.
I used to see her read it. I used to see her read at the Cantab, and I was there for the debut of her first full-length book. And she's fantastically strong and a really good first choice. And props to everyone who picked her. And of course, props to the poet laureate of Boston. It's Danielle Legros Georges, I believe. Danielle Legros Georges.
There you go.
A professor in creative arts and writing at Lesley University.
Oh, and fantastic!
Much talk about her. What's that?
Sam Cornish is no longer poet laureate of Boston?
Nope, she stepped down a little while ago.
Oh.
He stepped down a little while ago, and then Danielle came on late last year.
Oh, that's fantastic. We should get her on the show.
That would be a good idea. Would be a good idea. But I'm more interested in this grassroots version of the Poet Laureate. That's why I wanted all populists in a room with a tape recorder or a video camera. It would have been a great panel live, and I just see the chances of that happening less and less. So I'm hoping very much that that can change.
Well, so Chad, so just to kind of, put some emphasis on what's going on here, what you're talking about. what do you think would have to happen for the situation to change and for the for the position to get backing, so that it doesn't go away, so that it's not dissolved?
Well, I have a hard time answering that because I was invited. I do appreciate the fact that I was invited to this, given that I wasn't a Cantabrigian. I was invited to a cultural council meeting regarding this I wasn't able to make. I've since been trying to communicate with Julie Berry to see what the move is going to be. I have not been able to get in contact with her. I would have loved to have gotten a conversation prior to tonight's call.
Right.
But
Maybe
hopefully
you can get it for another show.
Yeah,
but
man.
that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping. That's why I call these like dream project ideas, dream shows.
Yeah, if we can't get if next year you can't get a panel for poet populace or whatever, let's just try and set one up on this podcast because whatever.
No, why wait till then? I'll contact these people. I'll teach them how to. I'll teach them how to use Google Hangouts.
I'm sure they already know how to use Google Hangouts.
I hope.
Not everyone does.
We don't know how to use Google Hangouts.
I was kicked out for 20 minutes.
You banned yourself.
You banned me. You blocked me.
You got yourself banned from your own show.
Because you couldn't control your iTunes.
It's a coup.
iTunes.
All right, JB, what's with you guys, man?
Well, before we get to that, I have a question. Jason, who is Amanda Palmer?
Oh, good question. She's a novelist. And she's also what? She's an author.
That wasn't a joke.
$1,000.
Is that really her name, Amanda Palmer? Really?
Yes.
Why is that weird?
Fantastic. That's fantastic.
Why is that fantastic? She's in the Dresden Dolls. They're a great band.
Are they?
I don't think they exist anymore. She's mostly known as the musician, writer, artist that's married to Neil Gaiman.
Is that right? Oh,
yes.
man.
Also the subject of a very controversial Kickstarter campaign.
Why? Why was it controversial?
What's up? What happened?
It was controversial because, and my friend Ian Thal covered this for the Fuse, Art Fuse. Not so much the fact that she had the Kickstarter campaign, but then afterwards she was looking for volunteer musicians to play shortly after she had made basically a boat full of money.
Oh. Well,
and this is why you and me, Jason, we can't have nice things through Patreon because people people mess up the crowdfunding system inevitably, unfortunately.
What Chad's talking about is because me and Chad run oddballmagazine.com, and what it basically is a poetry epicenter for poetry. That's every day, every night, every day we're dealing with something new on poetry. And we're putting up new poets all the time, and we're putting up columnists, and we have live videos, and we have JP Lime, we got everything. So what I'm saying is, what Chad was talking about Patreon is a crowdfunding funding source that we were looking at, but I don't know, we have to look more into it because of the idea of, are we that good that people want to subscribe to our site for $1 a month? I don't know, Chad. What do you think?
This is Jason's nice way of saying prepare for e-begging, people. It's coming down the road.
Yeah.
I got a book coming out pretty soon, though.
Agreed.
Oh my.
Oh man. Anyway, so
I love that.
Answer your question.
That was as
as
as possible, and I love the hell out of that. By the way, I got a book.
Is it about e-begging?
I don't know. I can't talk. My audio level's been adjusted.
All good. So what else we got?
What's going on with you guys?
I thought Jason was gonna go plug his book. What are we doing? You can't kind of plug off in the middle.
I'm not plugging my book yet. Okay, I'll plug it for a second. I'll plug it for 1 second. I'm not gonna say anything, but Friday there will be a big announcement about my book.
All right. There you go. The ultimate tease.
I did post this on Monday.
I think people want ultimate.
Laughing out loud, Chad. LOL. Yo, all right.
IRL. Yep.
Me and Chad, did we get our point across yet?
Did we have a point? We're just talking. We're just talking, giving you guys ideas of what the show is going to be like.
Chatting.
We're just chatting. We're just
A
chatting.
little bit of coffee talk.
We're just talking, no big whoop.
No big whoop.
What else
So,
we got?
so I just want
The
to say,
poet populace is neither a poet nor a populist. Discuss.
I just gotta say,
Is that true though? Is he neither a poet nor a populist? That's pretty interesting.
Take the stage. What?
Nothing.
Nothing. Anyway, we've been talking a lot about poetry, but JP Lime just wrote this brand new article about Kendrick Lamar. Maybe we can talk about that. Maybe talk about some of the stuff that JP Lime Productions has been doing lately, because I guess I'll just introduce you guys, because, I don't know, they're a fantastic news source for all things hip-hop, all things... It seems like you guys are just everything current. It's just very fresh, and it's a good read. I enjoy the articles are well done.
Yeah, we appreciate that, buddy.
A lot of research done to them. Like the article today about Kendrick Lamar was a very good read, and it raises the question: is Kendrick Lamar the greatest of all time? Could he be one of them? I don't know, but it says a lot about JP Lime and their talents. So I just want to big you guys up. You guys are great. And thank you
to potentially mess up your segue, Jason, I just want to apologize to Ivan, the JP Lime logo himself, who's been giving himself carpal tunnel syndrome, adjusting my audio level for the last half hour.
Yeah, he did that to all of us. He's all right with it.
I thought that was a great segment.
Well, hey, it's not so much adjusting yours specifically. I'm toying with everybody's to get my sound right. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Can you auto-tune me for the rest of this podcast?
I can certainly eject you.
Please do not do that.
Don't eject me.
I can certainly kick you off. No, just kidding. No, we appreciate that. So yeah, so we're the other entity to this, this podcast show and this partnership, JP Line Productions, myself, Chris, and our partner Kogan, Scholar, Professor Spaceman, respectively. Jason was alluding to. We actually did 2 Kendrick Lamar articles this week. Many of you hip hop fans and even casual music fans, because he's blowing up. He's all over the place right now. Know that Kendrick's new album, To Pimp a Butterfly, dropped early last week. A week early, actually. It was supposedly supposed to come out this week, but it ended up coming out last week. They say to prevent leaks and yada yada yada. That's what Professor, aka Chris, wrote his article about. What really happened with that leak? Was it a mistake? Was it intentional? Was it, were there other factors involved? He wrote a brilliant piece about that. He really dug into, whether or not it was feasible for it to be a mistake, or, if it was in fact a strategic thing done by the record label to increase sales. And Jason was alluding to the article I wrote about Kendrick Lamar possibly being, or already being, in my perspective, a top 5 MC of all time. I know that's debatable. I know a lot of people. Just gonna say, hey, that's impossible. He's so young. He hasn't been out that long yet. But there's a justification for it.
And then you can talk about it. You gotta hear Butterfly, and then your whole perspective changes.
Yeah, it's really. I didn't get it at first, but I listened to it like 3 or 4 or 5 more times, and I was like, "This is really, really good."
It really does, man. Like everything that Ivan put into his article about that, Butterfly changed your whole perspective. You put out one awesome classic album that really does make you a dope ass person in hip hop. You then follow it up with something that you're like, all right, I'm gonna go change everything about hip hop. Or at least where it is right now. It wasn't like that was the first person who had done something experimental or, Afrocentric in the way that it was. It wasn't the first person, but it's certainly the first person in a long time, and it was a landmark album. So you come into
that city
second album, then the discussion about top 5 makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Butterfly plays a big role to me, I think.
And even Section 8.0 was a great album too, man.
It's an awesome album.
I love that. I love it. And
Section 80.
What I like about the Kendrick Lamar album, what I like about it is both of them are playing a different. I mean, they're concept albums. They're definitely concept albums,
Yeah.
and that's what
Well,
I like listening to.
Yeah.
And Ivan definitely delved into that into his articles. So
All three of them are concept albums, and not just any old fun kooky let me entertain the crowd concept. They're all rooted in pro community, pro black, self empowerment, getting out of the ghetto, the perils of the ghetto, community upliftment. They're all rooted in that. And he doesn't shy away from race. He specifically deals with race. He's one of the few artists that intelligently uses religion and religious motifs in his music without it being straight up gospel rap, which exists and it has a place and I'm all for it, but that's not what he's doing. He's just really he's really creative and effective, in being able to do that, on top of being such a great lyricist, on top of having great production behind him, a great team, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, like you said, Jason, all three albums, and I would argue two of them are classics. The Section 80 album, Section .80, is damn near, it's fantastic. I wouldn't call it a classic, but it's fantastic. And one of the points I made in my article was that Chris, you touched on this. Hearing Pimp a Butterfly really changes the game as far as that argument. It's like, all right, he made Good Kid, Mad City. Now he made To Pimp a Butterfly. We can put him into discussion. I wrote in the piece that Nas possibly gets into the top 5 on Illmatic alone. On Illmatic alone, because that album was so phenomenal, so groundbreaking, and motivating to the likes of
like when he came out with Stillmatic, after he came out with Illmatic, and then he put out Godson and some of the other ones he put out with I Am and things like that. It seems like for a while he had Godson and some of these albums, but then he came out with Stillmatic, which had that banger on it, One Mic, and that.
Godson was after Stillmatic, but no, I mean like his follow-up albums were very good, and I would argue Stillmatic borders on classic. I would even argue Godson borders on classic. I love both those albums. I think they fall a little short. But my point in bringing up Nas and Illmatic was that if myself, and I've got some biases, I admit that. It's not an exact science. That's all in the article. Choosing a top 5, there's so much criteria involved in any top 5.
Science? You sure?
What'd you say?
It's not an exact science. Are you sure?
It can't be an exact science. It's like.
I mean, I can make it an exact science for myself. That doesn't mean anybody's going to agree with me, especially for something as subjective and something as
not a scientist.
Is hip hop. But no, I mean, if Nas can get in on just Illmatic, and not just me, but a lot of other people, say Nas is top 5, top 10. If he gets consideration for mainly Illmatic, then why would we rule Kendrick out if he's got 2?
Because I don't think Nas gets in on just Illmatic. Like I think Illmatic is obviously I think it's like a top 5 all-time album for hip hop. But I think his body of work gets him in as like an underrated rapper who's come back strong, like in the past. As far as popularity.
Also, I think
it's Nas's body of work that really gets him in as a top 5 lyricist for the people that like you that are like devout fans of his. Illmatic is definitely his dopest album, and it's definitely like the classic.
But dude,
you wouldn't start considering him if he had stopped after that. Like
you're right. You're absolutely right. It's Illmatic
makes him underrated the way he is, even though he's one of the top artists. But he's one of the top artists in hip hop, and not everybody knows that. I think a lot more people know that now than 10 years ago necessarily, or even like 15 years ago before he started like coming back and doing like a feature everywhere.
Right. Or even 5 years ago. I mean, when he was doing his track with Olu Dara and that album, the Disciples, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever that was. It was like he was very well respected, and he was considered one of the best. But he hadn't made that leap yet into top 5 for a lot of people.
Or even like maybe before Stillmatic. That's when he was like really underrated. Like it was
Yeah,
when Stillmatic came out that like
Stillmatic brought him out to the. I mean, the last video I saw for Nas before one mic was I don't know. I'm not gonna. You can hate me now. You can. What's that song called?
Hate Me Now. Hate Me Now. That's off of I Am.
That was like the last video I saw, and I love that album. It's off of I Am.
Yeah.
It's great, but like when I saw it and I heard one mic and the idea, the concept of it, and how raw that song was, that whole album, like that part when he that song, and I'm sorry I don't know the names and stuff offhand, but when he spits backwards the whole song, that is just lyrical genius. You know what I'm saying?
It's called Rewind. Yeah, Rewind. Well, yeah, exactly, and that's the only reason Stillmatic falls short for me is because there are literally 2 tracks, sometimes 3. That I just don't dig. They're there. Nas is too good of a lyricist to make a complete dud, which is one of the one of the thumbs up that I give Kendrick. Like he's that good of an artist that anything I hear him on is at least solid. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But on Stillmatic, there were just a few tracks that were, you know what I mean? Do they stop it from being a phenomenal album, a great album? Absolutely not. Do they stop it from being a classic? Yeah, I think it does. You know what I'm saying?
It was also definitely
not even just relative to Illmatic, but relative to like other classics. Like it's not Stillmatic isn't Reasonable Doubt. Stillmatic.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's such a good album.
I wouldn't put Stillmatic up on the Pantheon. I think that it is for Nas. It's like a crazy landmark album because all of a sudden he had a new level of popularity. All of a sudden with Stillmatic.
I agree.
Oh,
Ether.
That he opened up to a whole new audience, and then that is continued still. Like now. Everything that he does is relative to that level of popularity.
And Life is Good is a pretty great album too. So
Life is Good is great. Yeah, Life is Good is a very good. I mean, and those are the 4. It Was Written, I Am.
You talk a lot about It Was Written. That's the one that like you talk about, and that's where I think about him as underrated. Is that kind of era?
Well, It Was Written was Illmatic was considered an instant classic, 5 mics, 5 lines, 5 stars, whatever you want to say. You know what I'm saying? Like It Was Written was still dope. People were giving it 4-ish at the time. It was just like, but even he puts out a fantastic second album, and everybody's just like, oh, but it's not Illmatic. Like he is, in a way, he's cursed by the fact that he dropped Illmatic. But it's all for the better in the end.
Illmatic because he was like, I am still growing as an artist, and like Illmatic was such a dope album, but Stillmatic was saying, look, I might be a couple of years into the game, but I still run this shit. And that's what he was doing with Stillmatic.
Yeah, I mean, it was at the height of his battle with Jay-Z and all that stuff. But I mean, back to Kendrick, because I don't want to make this a Nas segment. But I mean, I think it's nice to talk about Nas in the context of Kendrick and vice versa, because they're comparable artists. Like again, I am admittedly biased when I'm choosing my top 5 anything, even if I break down and I get specific about the criteria, lyricism, impact, commercial impact, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Even when you make it real specific, there's still a lot of subjectivity to it. That's just the way hip hop works. I would imagine that's just the way poetry works in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? But
let me ask you this subjectively. What makes Kendrick kick LL or Eminem out of your top 5? Out of your top 5?
Question.
Well, all right. So here's the way I looked at it. If Biggie is top 5 off of just a couple of off of an abridged body of work, all things considered, then at this point, Kendrick's abridged body of work is overall of a higher quality to me than LL's or Eminem's. And here's what I mean about it being subjective and admittedly biased. I prefer, and I give a lot of points to and for, to artists for making positive, empowering, revolutionary type music, something that's important. That matters more to me as an individual and my styles than, say, party and dance music. some other dude, some other chick, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they probably, see hip-hop and feel hip-hop a little differently, so they're going to pick different MCs, different groups, whatever the case may be. But to me, since that's what I care about, and it's not that I, block everything else, I consider lyricism, I consider record sales, I consider party anthem, overall number of hits, Grammys, et cetera, et cetera. I consider all that shit, street credibility. At the end of the day, since that matters more to me, my top 5 are going to include artists like Tupac, Nas, and Kendrick Lamar.
Right on.
I love the fact that you got that. That's your.
So that's why Kendrick bumps out LL. That's why Kendrick bumps out Eminem, because I love Eminem's work, but there are a lot of Eminem songs that I just don't dig because they're corny. He's too good of a lyricist, again, to make a complete dud. I can listen to pretty much any rap he spits and appreciate it for how good he is as a rapper. But I'm not digging every song, that he's ever made. I'm pretty much digging every song that Kendrick's ever made. I'm pretty much digging every song Biggie's ever made. You see what I'm saying? Tupac and Nas, I'm not digging every song they've ever made, but I dig a lot of them. You know what I'm saying? And again,
the percentage is pretty high.
What'd you say?
The percentage is pretty high
The percentage is pretty high. I turn to them often when I just want to listen to rap in general. And again, they've got that positive, revolutionary, pro community spin that I just think is important, especially in this day and age.
Well, let me just shift gears for 1 second, Ivan. Just real quick. I saw a video of Kendrick Lamar. And he's calling himself a writer and a poet, not just a hip hop artist. Have you heard about that? He's saying that he's talking more about like how he's an artist and a poet, which is not what every hip hop artist is saying. He's saying he's also a poet, which is giving like strength to what like how Quali and shit like Quali and Mos Def and Common and guys like that who are poets, but like Kendrick Lamar has said on his on some interview I saw that he likes to be called a poet. I think it was like on one of the shows I saw. He likes to be called a poet. What do you think of
that? Chris, would you chime in?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard that, but it's not surprising at all. I mean, his whole perspective on what he's supposed to be doing in hip hop right now is going to be much larger than we think. Like when he comes back like this, very secretively, like they went into hiding for a while, made this album, and they come back with this and say, "This is what I'm supposed to be giving you as my second album." You got to imagine that your perspective on what you think you're supposed to be doing in hip hop is very large.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
You're not the same. You're not filling the same role as some of these other dudes. He's not gonna sit there and call people out, other than in the Control verse. But
Control. Control. He was just asserting himself.
Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't necessarily those specific people that were like the villains, but like there are other people that you can imagine are doing that. They are visualizing their role in hip hop very differently. Like Kendrick sees himself as a leader and has been built up since Good Kid, Mad City. Like his life has changed dramatically since that album came out. And the process he's gone through since then to creating the next album it's going to be a crazy, crazy world. Like everyone around him has elevated himself, and he has elevated himself and realized that he has to become a leader in this shit. It's exciting to see what he does. For number 3, this is number 2.
What's he gonna do next? Right? What's he gonna do next?
That shit's crazy. Like I can't imagine what he's gonna do next. But it doesn't even matter. We're still in the middle of this one.
I mean, it's brand new. It's fresh. And what I like about it is you throw a little jazz in there. You throw a little bit of George Clinton in there. I mean, like
a lot of funk, a lot of
funk, a lot of jazz, a lot of spoken word, even a lot of different ideas about what the I mean, and Ivan, in your article, you really nailed what I was missing about that album. You really kind of basically shed light on like how much of a concept album this is.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, like, admittedly, I shied away from writing a review on the album because my schedule to write for the week, coincided with or ended up being a week and change after the album dropped, at which point everybody had already written about the album. So, you know what I mean? So I wanted to write something a little different, but even in going in a completely different direction, I it's impossible not to like mention, some of the finer points of that album. You know what I'm saying? Because again, I just think it's an instant classic, and I think
I
over
agree.
time people are going to see that. But yeah, there are so many layers to it. I mean, it's my what immediately sticks to me is that whole positivity aspect to it. I love that shit. You know what I'm saying? I love that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But musically, it's brilliant. Like you said, it's some people are saying it's a little too jazzy. I think that's just kind of that was the vibe of the album. That was the direction he went with
This
it.
dick ain't for free.
There's also a lot of there's also a lot of distortion, like
Yeah, there is.
and just just a lot of breaks in the music, and just twisting of sounds that just it makes it really really layered, powerful. I mean, it's hard to come up with the right word, but it just gives it so much depth. You know what I'm saying? He's talking about in the album exactly what Chris was mentioning. Um, where his world just changed completely, and he's building a second album based off of those experiences. He's talking about temptation. He's talking about the perils of fortune and fame. He's
Yeah.
talking about, what I'm saying, amidst, all the racial things and the racial climate issues that he's capturing. He's talking
And
about.
we haven't even hit on the most crazy, ridiculous, earth-shattering piece of the whole album, which is obviously the end, when he decides that the whole poem he has been writing through the course of the album is an interview with the dead ghost of Tupac.
What?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's just, I sat there and listened to it straight through because that's the way you should do an album, and I am so glad that that's my regular process, because I definitely did that for Butterfly, and I listened all the way through, and I went, oh my God.
Well, throughout the album.
Did you get it the first time?
What's that?
Did you get it the first time?
Did I get that it was him, but the
Yeah.
Tupac? Oh,
Yeah.
well, of course. He can't be anybody else. But all of a sudden, you're like, because the last couple times that he mentions it, last couple songs, whatever it is, like track 10 or 11, whether it's Mama or whatever the one is after that, you start going, who is the you that he's talking to? Like, it's definitely the first couple times you don't really even think about it. You were feeling conflicted, misusing your influence. And you just thought, it's just a thing that he keeps leading into with the song. But by the end, you're like, oh, wait, he's talking to somebody specific. Who is it that he's talking to? And when you finally get to the very end, you're like, oh my God, that's who he's talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And throughout all those, I'm sorry. Do you guys hear an echo? I'm sorry.
On you? No,
Yeah.
no.
No, I don't hear an echo.
All right.
There's just truth ringing down.
All right.
It's coming through both your ears at the same time.
No, so through the album, like he keeps saying, I remember, or I remember you were as conflicted, misusing your influence, abusing your power. He says that throughout the album, as a reoccurring theme, and
Yeah.
it's like in my mind, after listening to the album, and even as I was listening to it, it just sounded like he's I don't think he's necessarily uh, 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 talking directly to or speaking directly to what might have been going on in Tupac's head when he was at the height of his run.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that I think that he's going through his own shit, and in his mind he's just like, damn, this must be similar to what this guy was going through. You know what I'm saying? As like the head figure of an entire coast, and you know what I'm saying? Somebody with that much power and influence. And I think, in Kendrick's mind, he's obviously paying homage to Tupac and trying to bring out the finer points in Tupac's message, but also not trying to overtly trying to not repeat the mistakes that Tupac made that ultimately led to his demise, whatever that however you want to interpret that. It's just one of those things where I remember you was conflicted, misusing your power. It's like Kendrick knows he's got it right now. He has what Tupac had back in the mid '90s. He's got the spot. He doesn't want to lead hip hop astray. And I don't think he would say that Tupac did necessarily, but Pac was going through a lot of shit and blah blah blah. That whole beef thing happened. It
Yep.
was it was bad. It was great for sales, but at the end of the day, it was bad for the people involved.
Especially
And it
what
changed hip hop. It changed hip hop for better or worse, or somewhere in between. It changed hip hop. Kendrick doesn't want to have to go through that. He wants to have the spot, but he doesn't want to have to go through that. And he makes direct reference to that on Hood Politics when he says something, to paraphrase, something to the effect of, me and Snoop are the only dudes on the coast with our fingers on the button.
I love that shit.
And history will repeat itself.
Yep.
But and then he references his control verse. But I sat down with Jay, and it's funny how he told me how one verse can F up, can fuck up the game.
Fuck the game.
Yeah.
He's, and again, classic album, top 5 artists. He's got To Pimp a Butterfly. We just talked about how deep that album is, and we barely scratched the surface. Good Kid, Mad City, universally considered a classic. Section .80, fantastic album. And the fucking control verse? Are you kidding me? On top of all the features, on top of all the guest appearances, he often steals the show. Why can't he be considered a top 5 artist?
Not only that, but he goes on hip hop shows and he'll be so cool and calm, and then they'll be like, hey, can you freestyle over these Biggie beats?
Yeah.
And he just goes for 7-8 minutes, no problem, just because he is at top of his game, top form. He is seriously the best hip hop artist out there right now.
Another great point. He can freestyle, and not a lot of artists, not a lot of hip hop artists can actually freestyle these days. They'll come in with prepared freestyles, and they'll rap them, and and they sound good and stuff, and some of them use the prepared freestyles to go into actual freestyles, which I think is dope. I think that works. This dude probably does some of that too, but he's shown that he can just freestyle off the top.
Which is, I mean, freestyling is a fun is not a fun thing, but it's a way to assert that you are a figurehead in hip hop. If you can freestyle, then that means you can write bars and you can put songs together, but you can also go off the top, and not everyone can do that.
Not necessarily. Some people can freestyle and not write. Some people can write and not freestyle. It shows that he has versatility, and it shows that he's got that overall package. He can do it all, basically.
He's a strong candidate for best poet. I mean, best artist in a while, man.
Yeah.
2015, best artist so far. You think?
Yeah, well, I mean, and Section 80 came out in 2011, and he was making mixtapes before that, so he's been at it for a while, which is,
Yeah.
Can you get his mixtapes? I don't know. I've only heard Section and Mad City and then Pimp a Butterfly.
They're out there, and it's just one of those things where there's only so much music I'm gonna buy, but like for the most part, everything I've heard has been at worst very good, at worst.
Yeah. He took that Eminem song and then completely transformed it. The Eminem song.
Story? That shit was ridiculous.
Yeah.
He sounded like Eminem. It was great. He sounded like he was like, all right, I'm on an Eminem song. I should do it like this. It was crazy. Yeah. Hey, but Scholar, by the way, I am hearing an echo now on you.
Yeah. All right.
Not to do anything different about it, but I've been hearing the last couple times you've spoken.
Yeah. No, I'm hearing it too. All right, I gotta figure that out. So that song you guys are talking about real quick, just for the the cyber world out there. It's Love Game off of Marshall Mathers 2. It's featuring Kendrick Lamar. Eminem featuring Kendrick Lamar, and Kendrick Lamar basically goes into Slim Shady mode, and it's a fantastic track. Now, I want to talk about Chris's piece for a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Good job, Chris, man. Professor.
Yeah. Like it's it's one of those things where I was just myself as a fan. I was just happy the album dropped. I remember being really busy at work that day and thinking, "Fuck, I'm not gonna get a chance to listen to this until tonight at the earliest, possibly tomorrow." But So I was just happy it came out. I wasn't really, paying too much attention to what was going on with it leaking early and this, that, and the third. I read some blurbs. I was like, whatever. I can't wait to listen to this shit. But you really, really nailed how to someone like me who wasn't really paying too much attention. I was like, oh, somebody fucked up. Big deal. The album's out. But you're like, hey, that was possibly done on purpose,
Well, I mean, it's
for the album's benefit.
yeah. I mean,
Why would they do that on purpose?
it's a crazy new thing now that like the surprise album. So Drake did it earlier this year. Beyonce did it in 2013 with her album. It's now becoming more popular, and for a variety of reasons that we can talk about in a second. There's a lot of good marketing and just sales reasons for doing it. That like you eliminate a lot of middlemen by just saying, "Hey, here's my album." Especially if you're Drake or you're Beyonce or you're like one of the biggest stars in the world, that you have a devoted fan base. So they're going to pick up your album as soon as it drops. They're going to pick it up more if nobody else tells them about it. So they don't have an intermediary to tell them, this is why it kind of sucks. Everything else, it's going to be at the top of their anticipation. So they're going to want to pick it up right away. But even beyond,
isn't like every record company putting out singles now much more than they are like to let people know something's coming?
In the age of digital, it's a lot easier to sell one song at a time, And that when a consumer has the ability to pick it up for free in most cases, or one song at a time if they really want to, then it's super hard to sell an album. The surprise album, hits a fan, upside the head and says, here it is, and you're one of the first people to notice because I dropped it at midnight, middle of the night. So with Kendrick's album, it was supposed to come out this past Sunday, 23rd at midnight. That was like the announced date. They hadn't said anything really about it. They dropped like 2 years ago into the Grammys for this year. They won 2 Grammys. And then they dropped like 2 other singles. They dropped Blackberry and whatever the other one is. I think they dropped King Kunta, or I can't remember whether they dropped it or whatever. They only dropped a little bit before the album came out. They didn't say much, but they announced the date was the 23rd. All of a sudden, the night of the 15th, it was available online, and there was a whole bunch of scrambling. And if you look back at the Twitter feeds, which is now the way that people communicate, now the way that, like, you want to have your finger on the pulse of the way shit's going, Twitter will tell you anything that's happening in the entertainment universe. So all of a sudden, Top Dog from TDE is freaking out. It's like 1 a.m. and he's freaking out because the album's out. And if you look back, you can't tell whether he's doing it on purpose as a tactic to say, we jumped early. We jumped a week early to, beat the leak, so there's no digital leak. And because, if people are anticipating it this highly and we jump a week early, we might sell, 500,000 like Drake did in his first week.
Drake made 500,000 on that album that he put out, the one...
500,000 in his first week.
that new album, the one that says, like, if you are hearing this now,
if you're reading this, it's too late.
Yeah. Oh, well.
And that's his 3rd best first week selling. I like looking at Drake's numbers after doing some of the research for this article. It's insane. One of his albums did 630 in its first week, which is insane. I like. How do you possibly do that other than just selling all of Canada?
I don't know. I mean, it's been a long time
since person in Canada bought his album.
I even bought a CD, I don't know how anyone makes money these days.
So anyway, they jumped a week early. Either Top Dog Entertainment and Interscope decided, all right, we're going to jump a week early. We're going to make it look like we did it accidentally. Send out a couple tweets, and people will get all hyped up about it. They'll buy the album. It'll be a little bit of a frenzy. Or somebody at Interscope accidentally leaked the clean version on iTunes, because that was the first thing that went out, was the clean version. It went out like an hour before the version everybody wants. And then it rolled out on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever the hell else it was set up to roll out on. So it's pretty hard to tell whether that was done accidentally, whether somebody in Interscope just went, oops, this was a week early, I set the wrong one up, and then it fucked everybody up. Or it was done intentionally as a tactic, like a surprise album tactic. There's credence to both, and there's a lot to be said for the surprise album, which is kind of interesting now as a new business format in hip hop and beyond. Beyonce is the one who did it first.
I got a question for you. When Wu-Tang put out that album where they were going to make one album and people would bid for it,
yeah.
what did you think of that? What did you think of that idea? It went to museums, it went to art galleries.
fucking obscene and stupid to me.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't done anything in a long time.
Unnecessary.
It's just like you're grasping at straws now, my man. You know, like
Yeah.
who's going to bid over $1 million for a Wu-Tang album to have the one copy? You know, it's cool to have the one copy, but I mean,
Did anyone do that? Did it end up happening?
yeah, it sold for a lot of money. I forget what it was. It was more than $1 million.
Was it a record or was it a CD?
It was an album. It was like a full album that they hadn't released. It was called like something, you know, like the Untold Tales of Shanghai or some shit like that.
Oh.
But you know, to me, it was like at surface, it seemed like a cool marketing plan. But why would I pay? Why, as a fan of Wu-Tang, would I pay multi-millions of dollars?
It's just a tactic, you know. I mean, like dropping an album early is a tactic, just like doing what Wu-Tang did with dropping one album for $1 million.
Yeah, and that's a new thing. Like you have
one album, $1 million.
I don't know if it's a tactic so much as a gimmick, and that, I mean, or just like a really greedy money making. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like, as a musician, like as a consumer, you're right, Chris. Like, why the fuck would I pay $2-point-something million? Some people got money to burn. Hey, you know, do as you will. But like as a musician, you know, you and I
want it to be heard.
Yeah, why the fuck would I make an album for one person to buy? Like, I mean, sure, like if you know that'd be great for JP Line Productions because hey, one person gives us $1 million, great. But if you're the Wu-Tang Clan, you know what I mean? Like,
you should sell a lot more than that.
Exactly. It's just like, dude,
you should be able to release that album and sell a shitload more than whatever it is that you sold that one album for.
Exactly. So
you've got to, you know what I mean? It's,
well put. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah, I don't
know. What other kind of tactics have there been, Chris, for dropping albums? You know, ways of, you know, guerrilla ways of doing it. Like I know, you know, like you're saying, Beyonce did hers like with no advertising.
The biggest one is
U2. I mean, not to chase genres, but U2 made their album available for anyone who has iTunes. Like, I didn't download the album. Like that's something I stick to my iPod. I have that new U2 album on my. I've been listening.
That shit pissed me off. By the way,
psyched about that. I bet everybody that has an iPod is super psyched to have the new U2 album. Force fed down their throat.
Yeah, it's just, you know what I'm saying. I mean, there's just different ways of doing it, and I honestly don't think that there was a way or a reason that album, the Kendrick Lamar album, leaked. I just think it. I
don't think it leaked. It either happened that somebody at Interscope set up the date wrong or pushed the button wrong. It definitely didn't leak, and that was like it was carefully guarded. And now that's the new thing. Like the Drake album was submitted only a week before it was released, just to prevent that. And then from a week on, it was like a lock and key. You know, it was and that's the new thing because the leak is the one that will really bleed your first week album sales. And now,
what are some albums that have leaked, Chris?
I don't know, but most of them do now. Most of them, at least a couple songs, at least like a part of it, because somebody along the way. And the big thing now to prevent the leak, even before the surprise album, is to put out your digital before your physical. So that there's no physical copy that somebody can make a copy of along the way. You know, it's not handed between 3 or 4 hands that you can't account for. You know, if it's a digital copy and it's just on this one disc and then you hand it from this person to this person, it should be, you know, reasonably accounted for. So put out your digital before your physical is like the new way to beat the leak. But that's the thing about the surprise album is it beats the leak entirely. It just like circumvents it. If you say it's supposed to come out on this date, you know, the physical is going to come out on this date. Anybody that along the way that's going to fuck your shit up and cause the leak is surprised, and then you know they're out that element of surprise. You know,
I think
especially if you're a rabid fan, you're going to pick it up like that first week. It doesn't matter, and you're going to pick it up from the source. If that's the
did they put this out on vinyl? Did they put this one out on vinyl? Because this is a vinyl.
They haven't yet.
I would get this on vinyl definitely.
Yeah, I mean it's a dope album. You listen all the way through. So like that's where I listen to vinyl is if you listen all the way through.
Exactly. That's why you get this one on vinyl.
You know, I think So that was the big thing about Surprise, you know, and that's why it worked for Beyonce and it worked for Drake like crazy. You know, he like I said, over 500,000 his first week, and he dropped it in the middle of the night on midnight. And who else just did this week? Earl Sweatshirt did one this week.
I was listening to that album. That was good.
Is it? I haven't heard it yet. I like him. You know,
I like it. I love the concepts.
there's a lot of good dudes coming out in the hip hop now that like, look, everything is changing. So it's now all very. Guerrilla is one word for it, but just like new shit is popping up all the time. New ways of doing stuff is popping up all the time. Some of it's not going to work, but in somebody like Drake's case, that just like made him. You know, and Kendrick's too. He did 318 his first week.
Did what?
He did 318,000 his first week, which is
wow. That's pretty good.
ridiculous.
That's pretty good for now. So.
You know, it's not compared to Drake or Beyonce, but compared to anything else, like he premiered #1 because they surprise dropped it. Who knows what he would have done, but he sold 318 on a surprise drop. So and it seems.
I want it on vinyl. I want that album on vinyl. Like I have Check Your Head on vinyl. I have Low End Theory on vinyl. I want that on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
My birthday's coming, guys.
It's a fantastic album, and I mean let's not shit on Drake. Like what I've generally
I didn't say anything about Drake.
I've generally considered him like, you know, especially when he first came out. I just wasn't really feeling like you know, too emotional, too soft in my eyes. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of old school, you know, 80s or mid 90s. I thought he was a little corny, but he's got a really good production team behind him now, or working for him, I should say. And you know, and my issues with him have never been lyricism. He can rap. Is he, you know, my favorite rapper in the world? No, but he's pretty damn good. You know what I'm saying?
I think he kind of bores me, but his business, his whatever the team is and their business strategy is serious. You know.
Yeah.
He is every single album he puts out sells ridiculous.
Sells well, and he's putting out better music. In my opinion, he's putting out better music now than he did when, you know, he first blew up. And I think part of that has to do with, you know, he's a little older now. He's mature. Like some of the shit he's talking about, even though, you know, there's a lot of times they're still rooted in him just being an emotional dude and sometimes a little corny. It's you know, it's evolved to the point where it's just like, all right, I can get down with that. You know what I'm saying? I can at least respect the perspective he's coming from now. Whereas beforehand, I just thought I was a little too old for the shit that he was talking about. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I don't want to make it seem like we're shitting on Drake because
I'll shit on Drake. I don't like Drake, but I super respect him. You know, I just don't like him. I'll shit on him. I think that he's.
Well, that's fine.
I think he's boring.
I like some of his songs in a pop aspect, like hold my hand, I'm going home, or whatever that song is.
Right.
You know what song I'm talking
about? Yeah, I do, but here's
I'm going home, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, a lot of his stuff I still think is pretty corny. That's one of them. I like stuff like Started from the Bottom. I like the energy.
Oh, Started from the Bottom, now we're here. Yeah, I like that one.
I like the energy track he has out right now. That song is really good. Pound Cake, that I liked a lot. You know, I like him on trap beats. I think he knows how to write a trap beat really well. But what's interesting, you know, to bring up Drake and Kendrick in the same context. Obviously they're peers. You know, they're doing it at, you know, they're gaining their notoriety pretty much at the same time. Drake was out a little beforehand, but at this point, Kendrick's not only caught up, I'd say he's surpassed them. Drake, to me, and I was talking to a really good friend about this, you know, kind of going back and forth. You know, we see Drake as like the epitome, perhaps the last great money hoes and clothes type rapper. Like, he's an MC whose content based is, you know, a lot of it is based on, you know, just riches, glitz, glamour, you know, like pulling women, fancy cars, champagne, that type of stuff. And
so why does he sell like he does, Doug? Why does he sell like 10 times more than anybody else that I would put in the same lane?
Why does he sell more? I don't know. I
10
mean,
times more.
why does Jay-Z sell more than, you know what I'm saying?
He's
Like,
so much
Jay-Z has earned why he sells more. He's put out like a lot of albums.
See,
well,
to me,
yeah, but I mean, but you know, Jay-Z tailed off after a while, and he still sells better than a lot of people putting out better music than him.
When
You know
did
what I'm
Jay-Z
saying?
tail off, dude?
I would say after the Black
after
album, yeah.
Black Album? I thought the Black Album was awesome.
Yeah,
You like the Black
after the
Album?
Black
Not
album,
bad.
exactly. After the Black album.
Yeah.
Well, after the Black Album.
But no, I mean, with Drake, why does he sell well? Because he's that guy. He's had, you know, the spot right now when it comes to that type of music. Why does Rick Ross sell well? Aside from him working very hard at it.
They're in different lanes. But hold on.
Yeah, we're talking apples and oranges.
Jason, hold on. Why does Drake sell 630 in his first week? That's rabid fans. That's like
You know why, dude?
a different echelon. That's a Beyonce echelon. What's
He's
the
a
net
pop artist.
than Rick Ross?
A pop artist and a hip hop artist. That's why.
Because he's doing what he does better than everybody else in his lane, and that was my point with Rick Ross. There are other people doing what Rick Ross does. He's selling better than those people because he's doing it better. He's got a better team. He's got better beats. Beats have a lot to do with it. They're making catchier music. You know what I'm saying? And with Drake, he's got the notoriety. Like, he's been built up as the guy for a while now. So, if he puts any effort into what he's doing, he should sell well. He's fucking great.
I guess.
Right?
He sells in a category that nobody else sells. Like 630 your first week is no one else does it. That's insane.
I agree. But let's consider this. Like, all right, Kendrick Lamar, positive artist. Other positive artists out there. He's not the only one. You know,
right.
remove Macklemore from the equation. What other positive artist is selling 318,000 units in his first week? He's doing it better, and he is better at it. You see what I'm saying? So in their respective lanes, they're outshining their peers because they're fucking better at it. They've got a better product. You know what I mean?
All right. I guess I agree with you on that one. But what I guess my thing is that the reason that Drake has sold so many albums is not because of his hip-hop status. It's because of the fact that his music can become pop music very easily.
Yeah, well, what difference does that make?
He makes crossover music. He's a crossover artist.
Well, that's why he's selling 680,000 units. Is that what it was? 680?
Yeah, 630, I think, was for Thank You, whatever that one is. So.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Chris. Had he announced a release date and dropped it, a month later, do you think he would have sold as many?
Well, I mean, the one that he this most recent one, he only sold 500 only.
Right.
The other ones were bigger, but I don't know that he would have. I think the surprise drop certainly helps. I think it was definitely like. Who knows how long it took him to record it? Who knows how much, effort was put into it? But it means that your pre-production. It means your whole engine is so much smaller. You record an album, you record it with your producers and your rappers and your agents or whatever. Your little camp. You record it. A week later, it comes out. That's crazy. That's a crazy small engine. You don't record. You don't spend. $50 million on videos before it comes out. You don't spend this month. You don't do all kinds of other shit. You just make it, and a week later it comes out, and 500,000 people buy it. That's a crazy new model. That's insane.
When I think about drop albums like the Drake album that just dropped, I think of it, good for him that he's writing new music. So that's how I kind of look at it. Not like he built it up, like how like Eminem's album was built up for a long time.
Of course, that's the regular model for selling.
You know what I mean?
Specifically music or anything is you got to build it up for a while in order for people to buy it. You got to sell it. The surprise drop goes. I know you already want my music. Here it is. Now 500,000 of you are going to buy it in the first 3 days. That's crazy. It's awesome.
I mean, it's powerful.
It's awesome.
It's a new idea of doing it, man. It's a new way of dropping, but only if you have the status of a Drake or Kendrick Lamar. I mean,
that's really how we couldn't surprise drop one. No one would know.
No, but I mean, a lot of artists couldn't surprise drop one.
We couldn't really surprise anybody.
I just dropped an album right now.
I just surprise dropped a song. I'm gonna have to go tell.
No. Jason is surprise leaking his book on Friday. I think he said, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
Hey,
Listen, fellas. No, I think this has been a very, very fantastic first session here. Test run Rev 2, if you will.
Is
I think this
Chad
is
still here?
exciting.
Chad
I
on the
miss
mic?
Chad. Poor
Rap,
Chad.
the new sensation. You can make hundreds of dollars a week selling 630 records. You youngins. With your Googles and your YouTubes and your tweeting posts or whatever.
630,000 records. That's what we're really aiming for. Thousands of records.
Rap, the great American pastime.
We definitely have to come up with our music to go with Chad's little old-timey voice.
Is rap the new baseball?
I don't even know that means.
Oh, God, that you broke me. I've been trying not to cough on the mic, and you broke me.
Oh, my goodness. All right, fellas. Hey, this has been fun. I personally have got to get some sleep. I got to work tomorrow, but I can't wait till next week. We've got Didi Delgado on the show. Is that right, Chad?
That's what we're hoping to do. And Didi Delgado is, I'll just use this as a final segue out. Didi Delgado holds many hats, and one of the main things she's going to be doing actually in April is actually undergoing surgery. I'll be promoting the hell out of her shows, not just her show, but her GoFundMe page. She's a performer and an advocate, and a very intense performer of her own poetry. She featured at Stone Soup Poetry back in October, and she also October or November. God, I can't remember. It already feels like such a forever ago. I've been trying to get her back, and we have her back, but not quite in the way we expected. She has a medical procedure, which if you search out her the GoFundMe page, "Have a Heart, Let's All Help Didi," we can. There's information there from her friends on the medical procedure she has to take and the money that she's required to that's required to basically make sure she survives and doesn't end up homeless because of hospital bills. As of today, March 26th, her GoFundMe account is listed as I think a couple of days ago it was about 60% complete. I should think they were requesting a low ball of the estimate of $2,900, not quite $3,000. And I'm just bringing up the page right now. I was having a hard time with it for whatever reason, but I think it's pretty close to completion after only just a few days. Here it comes. Here comes the page. Sorry for the delay, ladies and gentlemen. And according to the file, out of the set goal of $2,925, just about $2,500 has been met already.
That's fantastic.
And not only we'll post this as an afterthought for as after notes for this podcast, but Stone Soup is planning an event to help fundraise the rest of the money and hopefully give her more, because anyone who's had a medical procedure done on them know there's always more bills and more things that you don't expect around the corner. So I want to make sure that Didi has as much money to recover as possible. And I want to make sure as many people come as possible to Stone Soup at the Out of the Blue Art Gallery in Cambridge on April 6th. And it's going to be, I think there's going to be basically as many performers as there are audience members in the seat. There's going to be food served. There's going to be 2 stages of performances and artists. And very nearly all the proceeds of what we make tonight are going to go straight to Didi. I think all we're going to do is worry about our rent. And after that, Didi gets everything else.
Awesome.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
But hopefully before that, before she goes under the knife, she will be with our guest. She'll be our guest either next week or the week after. I'm assuming next week for the next episode of the Oddball Show.
Well, everybody out there in the cyber world, this is the Oddball Show. More information to follow. You can definitely check for that at oddballmagazine.com. and or jplimeproductions.com. That's JPLIME Productions, plural.com. We'll be back next week with with some more poetry, some more hip hop, some more pop culture, sports, all that good stuff for you. And just three white guys and a Puerto Rican sharing our thoughts with you. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And Jason, Amanda,
Recall.
what do you think about that, baby?
Wait, what did you say?
Thanks.
I said recall.
You.
Amanda Palmer. A man to Palmer. What is he palming?
Oh,
I didn't get a joke. What?
There you go.
name.
I'm glad we're listening, guys. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. This is fun.
See ya.
Rap, the great American pastime. Will it replace? Shut up.
Rap.
The internet. Is it the next telephone? Come in to tune in next time.
Oh, man.
The outro segue. Better than the intro? Tune in.